The Washington Commanders have been linked to two wide receivers that could be traded in the 2025 offseason to pair with Scary Terry McLaurin as this team's number 2 wide receiver. Today we're going to be talking about whether the Commanders should be interested in Deebo Samuel or George Pickens in 2025. But before we get into the content today, we need to bring it home here, folks. Our sub battle going into the NFC Championship week. We're in the final home stretch here, guys. Right now we're ahead of Eagles now by around 21 subscribers. But I'm guaranteeing you right now, Chase Sr., the host of Eagles Now, is saying to his fans, subscribe to that channel so that they can beat us just in time for the NFC Championship game. We can't let that happen. We're going to give you guys extensive playoff coverage as well as off-season coverage for free here on the Commanders Report. So if you want to help us beat the Eagles on the field on Sunday and off the field in our sub battle here, all you got to do is click that subscribe button, guys. I'm going to tell you guys this right now. All you have to do is click that subscribe button. If you don't like our content, you can unsubscribe in a week. Help us beat the Eagles Now crew right now. Click that subscribe button and bring this thing home for us. Okay, let's get into the trade rumors here. And even though the Commander season is still going, Bleacher Report has listed Washington as a potential landing spot for 49ers wide receiver Deebo Samuel, who could be dealt by the 49ers this offseason. Alex K., the author from Bleacher Report, who wrote this article, had this to say. Samuel has only one season left on a 3-year, $73.5 million contract extension he signed in 2022. With a huge extension on the horizon for quarterback Brock Purdy and other foundational pieces needing new deals soon, the Niners could look to deal Samuel for cap relief. Samuel's value may not be as high. It might not be as high after he accounted for only 806 yards from scrimmage and 4 touchdowns on 93 touches this year, his lowest career marks outside of his injury-shortened 2020 season. However, he's still on the right side of 30 and could be rejuvenated with a change of scenery. Teams like the Washington Commanders and Pittsburgh Steelers, 2 playoff teams with a notable lack of pass-catching depth, might be willing to pay a premium for Samuel. He'd be an ideal addition to any contender's receiving core as a big-time playmaker who could help with a Super Bowl push. Listen, man, I'm intrigued by Deebo Samuel in this Cliff Kingsbury offense because a player like him who can almost be like another pseudo running back and kind of just like an offensive Swiss Army knife is something that I think Cliff Kingsbury could have a lot of fun with. I think he could be very creative with multiple running back sets. You could motion Deebo Samuel out pre-snap into a wide receiver alignment and really screw with an opposing defense and how they align. I think that Deebo Samuel is still somebody that can be valuable to an NFL franchise, especially because his cap hit, if he's traded to another team next year, the Commanders would only be taking on $2.12 million in cap hit in 2025 with him on the roster. So he's a very affordable option. In fact, he'd be more affordable on the cap than if they take a wide receiver in round 1 of the NFL draft this year. He's that affordable, and he does bring veteran experience. He's been to multiple Super Bowls. He hasn't won one yet, but maybe he can get that Super Bowl ring with Jayden Daniels, Scary Terry McLaurin, Cliff Kingsbury in this Washington Commanders offense. When it comes to Deebo, I think that he has declined over the last several seasons. He's had some injuries, and because of that, and the wear and tear, and the tread that he's put on the tires here, and he's worn down on him. I think that I wouldn't pay too much for him. You take a look at his production over the past 4 seasons. He had an incredible 2021 season, but after that, he really hasn't been the same. He's had some injuries. He's been a very efficient receiver throughout his career. He's still averaging over a first down per reception, and he can be used as a very versatile chess piece on offense. He's one of the more versatile options in terms of wide receivers in the National Football League. He's a hell of a run blocker. He can be used as a running back if you absolutely need him to, but because of the regression and the injury history and all these different things, I don't think I'd be willing to give up more than a 4th-round draft pick if I were GM Adam Peters. I think that would be my price, and I probably wouldn't go anything higher than that. Deebo, I think, is starting to regress physically in his NFL career, and I just don't think I want to give up a day 1 or day 2 draft asset to be able to go get him. So let me know down there in the comments section, would you accept this trade if you were GM Adam Peters for Deebo Samuel? Type A for accept or D for decline. This will be the pinned comment on today's show, so YouTube's going to throw you an ad break here in just a couple of seconds, and when that happens, take advantage of that time. But let me know if you accept or decline this trade for Deebo Samuel. So coming up here, we'll be breaking down the trade idea for Steelers wide receiver George Pickens here in just a second. But first, let's have a word from our sponsor here at PrizePicks, which is the best place to get real money sports action all on your phone this football season. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, PrizePicks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more than or less than on at least 2 player stat projections for a shot to win up to 1,000 times your cash. Run your game all season long on PrizePicks, America's #1 daily fantasy sports app. PrizePicks puts their members first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. When my picks hit, I can get my money in as quick as 15 minutes. Sign up today and get $50 instantly, and you play just $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. PrizePicks also offers weekly promotions that can lead to big payouts like Taco Tuesday, where every Tuesday, PrizePicks discounts select player projections up to 25% to provide even more value for your lineup. So you guys can see here that my projection for Sunday's matchup between the Commanders and the Eagles in the NFC Championship game. I'm taking the more on passing yards. That's essentially a free play for Jayden Daniels, by the way, because we definitely know unless he gets injured on the first play of the game, he's going to get more than that. And we're going to take the more on touchdowns for Terry McLaurin. I think he gets in the end zone. I also think A.J. Brown will get into the end zone at least once in this football game. So download the app today. Use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup when you download the PrizePicks app today. PrizePicks, run your game. So now let's talk about George Pickens here, because the 33rd team proposed a trade on social media this week that would send Pickens to the Washington Commanders. And, you look at, on paper, scary Terry McLaurin and George Pickens, that would be one of, if not the most talented wide receiver duo in the National Football League if the Commanders can pull that off. In this post here, they suggest that the Commanders would send a second-round pick next year to the Pittsburgh Steelers in exchange for George Pickens. And keep in mind, guys, Pickens is going into a season here where he's on the final year of his rookie contract, and he's going to probably want a brand new contract extension along with that second-round pick you're giving up for his services. So personally, guys, I am declining this trade if I am GM Adam Peters. I think there's too many red flags, and I think there's too many risks involved with getting a guy like George Pickens, somebody that we'll talk about here in a little bit, has multiple red flags in his game. But, I think Pickens is a hell of a talent. I think the idea on paper of putting Jayden Daniels, on an offense with Terry McLaurin and George Pickens on the same team, it looks really good. And, I think if Pickens can kind of, clean up some of the punctuality and professionalism issues, I think that, it could work out great for him here in Washington, D.C. But, multiple reports have come out this year in Pittsburgh saying he was consistently late to meetings, practices, and he was even late to the Christmas Day game the Steelers played against the Chiefs this year. And that's just obviously unacceptable behavior. He's been kind of aloof, and, he's been late to a bevy of different team events that you just don't want your leaders in your locker room doing, plain and simply, especially if you're going to give him a new contract extension. And, it definitely shows a lack of consistency in effort as well on film, both in terms of his run blocking and also in terms of his route running. The Steelers actually gave him a reduced number of snaps in certain games because they thought he was getting too fatigued during these football games. It just turns out he wasn't getting fatigued. He just, wasn't really giving much effort. But, the other thing that really gives me pause about getting George Pickens, guys, is that he likely wants a new contract extension as well. So you're taking on these risks, but then you're also going to have to pay him what he wants, which is likely $28 million per season or more. And honestly, I'm using that money on a new extension for scary Terry McLaurin. I mean, this guy's had an unbelievable season this year with Jayden Daniels as this team's #1 receiver. And I think he deserves, yet another contract extension with this football team. And I think that the most likely scenario for the Commanders here is that, Terry's not getting any younger here. He's getting older. But I do want to lock him up for the foreseeable future, give him the big money contract as a contract extension, and then to prevent really spending too much money in the wide receiver room this year, I think the Commanders are going to be spending a high draft pick either in round 1, round 2, or round 3 at the very latest on a wide receiver. Here are the top wide receivers in this year's draft class that could foreseeably get to the Commanders pick in round 1 and could be available in round 2 as well. Matthew Golden out of Texas, I'm a big fan of. If he somehow gets to pick number 29 or wherever the Commanders are picking this year, I would love him. Emeka Egbuka out of Ohio State would be an excellent option. I like the route running of the really big 6'4" Jayden Higgins. We talked about Elic Ayomanor on this channel before. He's a big physical receiver, true X, kind of reminds me of Mike Williams. Savion Williams is a 6'5" beast out of TCU. Kind of reminds me of Deebo Samuel, actually. Kind of that style of receiver, kind of run after the catch specialist. Xavier Restrepo, I think, is one of the best true slot receivers in this year's class. Jack Beck, very well-rounded. Jalen Royals, very physically talented, but raw receiver. Isaiah Bond, super speedy guy out of Texas. And then Trey Harris, another bigger downfield threat who's also a yak threat. All these guys are probably going to be available in round 2 for the Commanders here, or at least by their pick in round 1. So I think that the Commanders will certainly be looking to pair Terry McLaurin and Jayden Daniels with a young receiver that could one day replace Terry as this team's #1 wideout. So who's your guy? Let me know down there in the comments section. Which wide receiver do you want to pair with scary Terry McLaurin in 2025? Do you want Deebo Samuel? Do you want George Pickens and you want to pay him a big contract? Do you want to go out and get a rookie? If so, which one? Let me know down there in the comments section. For me personally, guys, I would love to see scary Terry McLaurin mixed with Emeka Egbuka out of Ohio State. All right, now let's get to the next piece of today's video, which is some crazy Jayden Daniels stats versus the Detroit Lions, and specifically in difficult passing situations. So Next Gen Stats put this out earlier this week. Jayden Daniels has excelled in the most difficult passing situations against the Lions. This just shows you how much poise this young man has. Against the blitz, he was 12 of 16 for 191 yards and a touchdown, getting rid of the ball later in the down. After 2.5 seconds, he was 10 out of 16 for 172 yards and a touchdown. And then under pressure, when the Lions were actually able to get in his grill, he was 7 for 9, 109 yards passing, and he was sacked 0 times. So his pressure to sack rate was a really, really good 0.0. So that is just showing you that Jayden Daniels is handling the heat of this NFL postseason. And even with guys like Jalen Carter coming after him in the NFC Championship game this weekend, I would expect Jayden Daniels to handle the situation and the environment and the big stage with grace and with poise. I think he's going to give the Commanders a shot to come away with a W and send this team to New Orleans on Sunday afternoon. Also, congrats to Jayden and Coach Q for making the finalist list for both Offensive Rookie of the Year and Coach of the Year, respectively. I think we all know Jayden Daniels is going to win Offensive Rookie of the Year. I mean, he arguably had the greatest rookie season for a rookie quarterback of all time in the National Football League. And in fact, not even arguably, it is the greatest rookie season in the history of the National Football League at the quarterback position. And then Coach Q, I think, is somebody that should get consideration. I think Dan Campbell and Kevin O'Connell are probably the favorites right now. But I think Coach Q, with his ability to take this team from the #2 overall pick to at least the final 4 teams standing in one season, I think it speaks volumes about his culture. I think it really does speak volumes about the coaching staff that he's been able to assemble here in Washington. And I think if you're looking for somebody that over-exceeded expectations this year, I think it's definitely Coach Q is #1 for me. So let me know down there in the comments section, should Dan Quinn win Coach of the Year this year, along with Jayden Daniels winning Offensive Rookie of the Year? Give me a yes or a no if you think Coach Q deserves to be Coach of the Year in the NFL this season. Thank you guys so much for making it to the end of today's show. One more call here to help us beat the Eagles Now crew. We're just 20 subscribers ahead of them in our sub battle this week and ahead of the NFC Championship game. So make sure right now you click that subscribe button, because I refuse to lose to Chase Senior and Eagles Now. Really do appreciate your support, guys. I'll see you guys on Sunday for our live watch party starting at 1:30 p.m. Eastern Time, where we're going to be covering the entirety of the NFC Championship game between the Commanders and the Eagles. It's going to be so much fun, guys. For the biggest watch party of the year, click that subscribe button right now. And until next time, guys, go raise some hell.